You may know Fresh Patch from Shark Tank, Oprah, or The Today Show. This is the Fresh Patch Podcast, where good pets get it. Sit back, put your paws up, and enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody, to the Fresh Patch Podcast, where good pets get it. I'm your host, Drew, with my co-host, Gabe, and we have an amazing guest on today, Dr. Judy Morgan. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself a little bit more and say hi to the viewers and listeners.
Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here today. I'm an integrative veterinarian. I'd like to say holistic, but really I'm an integrative veterinarian. And I practiced for 36 years in New Jersey, where I owned 2 hospitals. I sold those in 2020, moved to North Carolina, where I now run my company, Naturally Healthy Pets. And our goal now is to educate and empower pet parents around the world for better health for themselves and their pets. And so this way I can reach a lot more pets and pet parents than I could by seeing 30 to 50 animals a day in my clinic. So I'm really happy to be able to keep my career going in a positive direction.
That's amazing. Yeah, wow. You
Awesome.
you do a lot and you've been in the field for a very long time, which is great. And, living in a digital world now, I think you're on the right path of how to share your knowledge with everybody. So that's great. And before we really get started, I want to let everyone know, hit that subscribe button if you're listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcast. Follow at Fresh Patch on social media. Check out freshpatch.com. And check out Dr. Judy Morgan's website as well. And we'll have everything in the description to check out. So make sure to stop and do that. And then we'll dive right into things. I think, you gave us a little background. That was our first question. So appreciate that. But Gabe, I'll pass it on to you and get it rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been in the field like a long time. What sort of changes have you seen kind of in the veterinary field throughout your career?
A lot of not good changes, unfortunately. And both of my children declined to go to veterinary school. And I'm actually happy that they did because I don't like where the profession is going, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
The biggest change that we have seen is corporate takeover. So just like we used to have all the mom and pop drugstores in every town, and then it went to Walgreens and all the other corporate
Mm-hmm.
drugstores. And so now we don't have those individual mom and pop stores anymore. And we are seeing the same thing happen in veterinary medicine. And that's not a good thing. It's become very difficult for pet parents to find veterinary care. And then when they do find it, it's very expensive. We almost have a monopoly where Mars Pet Care, which is part of the Mars Candy Company,
Wow.
they own the most veterinary clinics, the diagnostic equipment, the diagnostic laboratories. They own 2/3 of the specialty and emergency clinics in this country, and they're expanding that worldwide. So it's become a problem around the world. And when we have that much concentrated power, we also have that much concentrated ability to raise prices through the roof, and there's no competition for it. The FTC has actually stepped in a couple of times and said, maybe we are getting monopolies here in the veterinary field. And so some of these corporate groups who own hundreds of veterinary clinics, they're kind of stepping in and saying, hey, maybe we should cap this somewhere.
Mhm.
So I don't like that at all. My clinics were privately owned by me, and I was lucky enough to sell them to my associate, and they're still privately owned.
Okay. Yeah.
But it is a really bad thing for pet parents. Really bad.
That's so interesting. I
Yeah.
had no idea that that was even an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge, really
Yeah.
huge. And we are seeing, on the good side, we are seeing a much bigger push being brought about by the pet parents of moving toward more holistic care, moving toward getting away from using so many chemicals, getting away from using so many vaccinations, and wanting more clarity and transparency in the pet food industry. So for years, and there's still a lot of collusion between veterinarians and big pharma and big pet food.
Hmm.
Again, not for the better for our pets. But we are seeing pet parents pushing more toward, hey, I want human grade food. I want real food. I don't want burnt brown balls with no nutritional value put in a
Yeah.
bowl that I am paying so much money for when
Hmm.
I could, get human grade ingredients and either make my own or find companies that are
Hmm.
doing that and have much better health for our pets. And I think because we have so much problem with the veterinary industry and even finding that care and certainly finding affordable care, I think pet parents now are understanding more and more that it is up to them to take responsibility, literally take the bull by the horns and say, I need to do everything I can to help my pet thrive and keep them out of the emergency clinics and the specialty clinics and make them as healthy as I can so that hopefully I don't end up like my daughter's dog ate a toy last week and very unusual for our big 80-pound dog.
Yeah.
Ate a toy, had a partial obstruction, so it's vomigeddon. The dog is puking everything everywhere, and she's
Oh,
Mhm.
got
geez.
diarrhea. And so it's a Friday morning. It started on Thursday night. Friday morning, my daughter calls our regular vet, and they're like, "Oh, you probably need to take her to one of the specialty centers because if she needs to be hospitalized over the weekend, blah blah blah." She ended up having to call 5 different specialty centers to find one that would even take the dog. She
Oh
had to drive
gosh.
an hour away. The dog was hospitalized Friday, Saturday. She picked her up Sunday, and the bill was over $7,000. She did not even need surgery. She
Wow.
just kept getting imaging done to see if pieces were moving through. And every time they did an x-ray or a set of x-rays to look at what was going on, it was $1,000. And they were literally doing them every 8 hours. And they had her on IV fluids, and she eventually, started eating and managed to come home without having to have surgery, which was all really good. But she had over a $7,000 bill for 2 days in the hospital because the dog ate a toy. So pet parents need to try to avoid. Luckily, she had insurance. That insurance saved her because they paid 90% of the bill. Without that, she'd be paying for that for the next 2 years.
Yeah,
That's
that
crazy.
that is ridiculous, and to not even have surgery, like that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you'd expect $7,000. There's some type of surgery in there. So, wow, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
well. I'm hope the dog's okay too. I mean, everything seems to be.
She's
She's
doing fine now
okay.
that she's back home, and she came home with still raging diarrhea. Of course, they fed her prescription diets in the hospital, which my
Yeah.
daughter told them that's going to blow right through her. She does not do well with these sorts of foods. So we took care of that using natural methods once the dog got home. So luckily we were able to deal with that. So she was able to check her out of the hospital when she was out of the danger of having need surgery. So, and we've had to do that, unfortunately, with a lot of our animals. One of our goats had to go in.
Oh
He
no.
had he had listeria in his brain. So it's a bacterial infection. It's really nasty, and it's just in the environment. His immune system was low, so he
Hmm.
gets sick. She takes him in, and food animal medicine is a lot cheaper, thank goodness. So it was $500 for the afternoon for the diagnostics, figure out what's going on. And then they wanted to keep him in the hospital. And she said, well, what are you going to do if you keep him here? Well, we're going to give injectable antibiotics. We're going to administer some medication. She's like, we can do that at home. I'm going home. Give me the
Yeah.
drugs. We're out of here. And he did recover, and he did really well. But, it really becomes how much can the pet parent do on their own? How educated can you become as a pet parent so that you are not stuck between a rock and a hard place when things go south?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting too. Like you bringing up like the controversies of like food and like what type of food we're supposed to be feeding our dogs. And just we've had pet nutritionists on here. We're dog owners, so like we've done our own
Hmm.
research, and it seems like there's a lot of like contradictory information out there.
Hmm.
Oh, absolutely. So the big pet food companies, so Mars, Purina, and Hills, they're the big three.
Yeah.
They have the market share. 75% of the market is between those three companies. And then we
Wow.
have hundreds and hundreds of smaller companies who are making tiny little inroads. Although we now have Farmer's Dog, which is spending a ton of money, ton of money, and doing what the other companies have done for years, which is buying influence in the veterinary field. And I'm not a huge fan of the company. I won't feed that food to my dogs, but I give them kudos because it's not burnt brown balls. It
Yeah.
is a fresh food. It still has more carbohydrates and synthetic vitamins in it than what's ever going to go into my pets. But it is such a huge step up. But they are making huge inroads. So I just saw something, I can't remember what group it was, but it was a big veterinary group. And the platinum sponsor is Farmer's Dog. They were at the top.
Wow.
And Purina was at the top, but Mars and Hills were much further down.
Whoa.
So that just shows you that they're spending literally millions and millions of dollars for this influence. And, you know, yay, it's such a step up from what we've had. It's still not where I'd like to see it, you know, in an ideal world, but then we also have the affordability problem for pet parents. And a lot of pet parents are saying, well, I'll just make my own food. And that is great because then you have control over what ingredients are going in the bowl. The problem is a lot of pet parents mean well, but they're not even coming close to getting all the nutrients that their pets need. So that's one of the things where people like me come in and we say, look, we're going to educate you. Like, we've got courses, we've got recipes posted online, we've got books. You know, here's, if you want to make your own, here's how to do it. Here's how to do it correctly so that you make sure your pet is getting all the nutrients that they need. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of really good smaller companies that are making species appropriate diets. Species appropriate meaning meat needs to be the first ingredient. It needs to be the biggest ingredient in their food, especially for our cats. Our cats are obligate carnivores. Feeding them corn and soy and wheat, just absolutely ridiculous. So we're happy that we have so many of these companies coming on board. Some are good, some are not so good, some of them are stellar. And so again, you know, we have people who put out lists. I have a very short list of things that I'm willing to feed my pets, just because they're things that I can get and they're companies that I know personally and trust. Susan Thixton at truthaboutpetfood.com puts out a list every year that's a much bigger list of foods that are human grade, well sourced. It says whether they're using any synthetic vitamins. The companies have to show their bills of lading for every single ingredient in their products, saying this is where we buy them from. This is, you know, how the animals are humanely raised for this food. She even breaks it down into the daily feeding cost for each one of the foods. So, you know, for people who are concerned about the price point, and I get it, I have a lot of animals. So my price point for food on my farm on a monthly basis is pretty high.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Well, that's really good information. Thank you for all that. That kind of leads us into some of our next questions and stuff, but we are going to do a little segment here, fact or fiction. And so first one being expensive food equals better quality, fact or fiction?
Little of both.
Both.
A little of both, because one of the most expensive foods on the market is a prescription diet that is made with hydrolyzed chicken feathers.
Whoa. Okay.
So if you want, and chicken feathers are pretty digestible. We process our own meat chickens, and my daughter feeds the feathers to her dogs. And they don't pass whole feathers, so they are digesting them. It's actually a good source of trace minerals and some protein, but it's not something where that should be the entire meal.
Yeah.
Especially for $150 a bag.
Yeah. Whoa. Okay. I've never heard of chicken feathers being.
Me neither.
Yeah, they actually had the name changed. It's a hypoallergenic diet for animals with a lot of allergies. And so it used to say on there hydrolyzed chicken feathers or hydrolyzed poultry feathers as the ingredient, and they went to AFCO and had it changed. It now says, it's now something like hydrolyzed poultry something product. They totally changed the name because people like me outed them and said, you're just feeding chicken feathers. And, people got smart and said, I'm not paying that kind of money for chicken feathers. So they actually had a name change done at AFCO at the national level.
Wow, that's sneaky.
Yeah,
That is,
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
very
I
sneaky.
literally have never heard that in my entire life.
Yeah,
That's
so
crazy.
interesting. Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Okay. Same segment, fact or fiction. Is a dog's mouth cleaner than a human's?
Well, there's a little bit of fact to that.
Okay.
That they actually have a different microbiome in their mouth than we do. And if you get bitten by a human, you're going to get a nasty infection. If you get bitten by a dog, it's a toss-up.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Okay. And there you go.
Interesting.
So for all you people out there that have ever wondered, I think we've seen it a lot. Like a dog's tongue is cleaner and stuff. And so there you go from Dr. Judy herself.
Confirmed.
Yeah. Great. All right. Next one, fact or fiction. Flea and ticks die in the winter and are no longer a threat during those months.
That's a fiction.
Fiction. Okay.
Yeah, ticks are out 12 months out of the year. Doesn't matter
Gotcha.
where you live. The
Yeah.
ticks survive frozen tundra, no problem. They are more active certain times of the year. So when I was in Jersey, and it's about the same in North Carolina, spring, like late fall and early spring, they get real active. They're not near as active in the winter, and when it's like obnoxiously hot, they're a little slower.
Yeah.
Fleas are most active in high humidity, warmth, and less active in the winter. So you're not going to see as much flea activity, but they can survive. I mean, if all stages of the fleas died in the winter, you wouldn't have fleas again in the spring. Where would they come from if they were all dead?
True.
So they're not.
Yeah,
Very
they're
true.
still there. Gotcha. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, moving on to fact or fiction. You can use dog flea tick products on cats.
That's a little bit of fact and a little bit of fiction.
Okay.
There are many flea and tick chemicals, and I don't recommend any of them, but there are many flea and tick chemicals made for dogs that are not safe for cats.
Okay.
But there are some products that cross over. So it's very important to read the label, but it's also very important that you're not using chemical pesticides on your dogs and cats, and that you go for natural treatments and natural prevention, not chemical.
Yep. Makes sense to me.
Totally.
Perfect. All right. Two more for you. Fact or fiction. Hard kibble and biscuits clean teeth.
Absolute fiction.
Okay.
The only ones that will clean teeth are the ones that are specifically made, and I can think of one prescription diet that is called TD, tartar diet, alphabet soup, and that particular kibble will help break down tartar because it is a very large piece of kibble that they can't just swallow, and it has a very large matrix. So there's a lot of air pockets in there, so they have to crunch on it. The other kibble that's out there, just generic kibbles, they actually contribute to dental disease because they're made with over 50% carbohydrates. Otherwise, they don't stick into a kibble if they're extruded. And those carbohydrates break down to sugars. So that would be like your dentist saying, hey, just eat Ritz crackers every day. You don't have to brush your teeth. Your teeth will be just fine. I think they will not be just fine.
Yeah. I don't think so. So greenies, no, right? No go.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
They're made with such horrible ingredients. And one of our clinic cats, 25 years ago, before I was really into holistic stuff, one of our clinic cats was really addicted to greenies. So he would sit there and beg for greenies, and everybody on the staff kept giving him greenies. He literally was peeing green pea.
Oh no. Hey,
jeez,
it's on brand here, but like we don't want green pea. That's horrible.
So yeah, no greenies. Yeah, they're just awful.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just really wanted to confirm because that is, I would say, the most common dental health thing that we see, and at least here in California, my friends and family, always greenies. So just get them out of the
horrible ingredients. Yeah, make it go away.
Gotcha. Okay, last one. Bad breath is normal for dogs. Fact or fiction?
Fiction.
Fiction. Okay.
Yeah, they should have their breath should should be
Have
fine.
should have no
It sh-
scent, right? It should just be like,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, it should be like puppy breath,
yeah,
like,
Mm.
yeah,
fresh,
yeah, no bad
fresh
stuff.
puppy breath. Yeah,
Yeah, if
makes sense.
their microbiome in their mouth is healthy and if they don't have rotten teeth. And I will say there's one other time that we get really foul breath, and this I'm going to bring in my Chinese medicine here. So we would get these dogs that would come in that their teeth are beautiful, but their breath could stop a train.
Oh
Oh
no.
And the
God.
people will bring them in, and I see this a lot in standard poodles, but other breeds as well. It's just when I first started diagnosing it, it was a lot of standard poodles. But what we have going on is something called food stagnation, where they're not moving the food out of their stomach fast enough. So they've got digestive issues actually, and the food is fermenting down in there, and it makes for that gas is just floating up and out the mouth, and it just makes for the worst breath. So, people email me all the time. My dog's teeth are beautiful, but his breath would just kill you. And that's what it is. It's food stagnation. We use herbs and, changes in the diet and totally solve the problem.
Amazing. There we go. Okay, well, we'll have to. And none of our dogs have bad breath here, so we're
Bad,
solid. We're solid.
You must be doing something right.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Awesome. So, we kind of already like talked about this a little bit, but there are some issues in like the current state of like the veterinary practicing kind of field. Um, what do you think are like the biggest issues, and like what would be if you could control the world, like how would you go about solving some of these issues?
I would stop allowing the influence of big pharma and big pet food over the veterinary industry. I would not allow big pharma and big pet food to own veterinary clinics.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about an oxymoron. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
I work for this veterinary clinic that is owned by a pet food company. So what food do I have to recommend in the clinic? Obviously. So it takes away our autonomy. If we work for corporate and they say, here's your quota of vaccines that you are supposed to give every month, and at the end of the month they send you a letter from headquarters saying, oh, you only sold 60% of the Lyme vaccines that you needed to sell this month. uh, it's not good.
Yeah.
uh, Vaccines are not a one size fits all. Corporate medicine kind of wants us to practice one size fits all medicine. Here's your notebook with the procedures. And so if an animal comes in with these symptoms, here's the list of diagnostics that you have to do. And, now you've got a bill that's thousands of dollars versus us old time practitioners who, 40 years ago, we didn't have all these diagnostic capabilities. We used our eyes and our nose and our hands and our ears, and it was hands-on diagnostics. And we've gotten so far away from that, um, that we need to get back to that. And one of the problems is veterinarians have a very high suicide rate.
Oh.
They also have a very high dropout rate. The average life expectancy for a new practitioner to practice is like 7 to 9 years.
Oh my
They all
God.
quit. They're so frustrated that they don't like being told what to do. They're just feeling miserable. They're given a huge bonus to sign on and promised a lot of things like, oh, your schedule will only be 30 hours a week. And then they find out they actually have to work a 40-hour week, which, hey, that's a normal work week, folks. But, nobody wants to do that anymore. I mean, I put in a lot of 80 and 100-hour weeks, and I'm not saying that we should all be doing that, because is that conducive to a good family life? Well, my kids grew up in my clinic. So meh, no wonder they don't want to be veterinarians.
Yeah.
But it was a totally different feeling to have that autonomy and that ability to work with clients. And, if somebody came in and they had a really restricted budget, it was like, okay, what corners can we safely cut? What can we do? What can I work out with that pet parent to get the care that this animal needs, at whatever level that is. And, I had the ability, because I love surgery, I had the ability to keep a lot of things in-house and not have to send them out to specialists. Whereas now I would say the vast majority of new graduates don't want to do surgery, don't want to touch surgery. So whereas, you know, a pyometra, an infected uterus in a dog, I could do that surgery, have them hospitalized, get them in, get them out for under $1,000. You go to a specialty clinic, that might be $5,000 to $7,000. You know, people
Wow.
just can't afford the care. So there's a lot of changes that we need to make.
Yeah. Yeah. It's honestly, it's so interesting because I know corporate medicine is such a big issue for humans. I mean, it only stands to reason that, you know, it would be an issue for dogs as well. And it's just interesting.
Yeah.
I've never even like thought about it before.
It's huge.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times you don't even know that your clinic that you're going to is corporate owned, or that if it's been a private clinic, a lot of times they don't advertise if they're selling to corporate. But you go in one day and everything has changed. The price structure has changed dramatically, what you're allowed to do, you know, who you're seeing, it changes very quickly. It's difficult. I get it from the private practitioner standpoint who owns a clinic. It's very difficult to find another private practitioner who will buy the clinics. It's, you know, it's a lot of money to invest. And most of them are coming out with $300,000 to $400,000 in debt for their education. So to then say to them, "Hey, go borrow another $2 million to buy the clinic,"
Yeah.
most of them are scared to death to do it. I mean, I borrowed $1 million to buy out my partner many years ago. I haven't put it into a calculator to see what that is in today's dollars, but it was a scary thing to do, to say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to pledge $1 million plus interest to this bank."
Wow.
Yeah.
Really scary.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
not everybody is cut out to be a clinic owner. So I get that, but I think we need to, for my generation, like the day that that my class graduated, there were about 90 of us back in 1984 when dinosaurs roamed the earth. But there was probably 25% of my class that walked out the door and opened their own clinics on day one.
Wow.
Open their own practice. You would never see that now. Nobody's brave enough to do that. Now they come out going, "I need mentorship." And they want mentorship for 5 years.
Yeah.
They don't want you to hold their hands for a month. You've got to hold their hands for a very long time. And I hired a lot of new grads over the years. And it started out that they came out like ready to hit the ground running. And by the time the last one I hired, I was like, "I'll never do this again. I can't. Like, you need 2 years of following me around before you're ever willing to see a client. I can't do that."
Yeah.
And you want $150,000 a year to follow me around.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the real kicker right there. Oh my
How do I
gosh.
sign up for that job?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, moving on to the next question. I know you have a lot of personal products yourself. You are an author. You host your own podcast, which is amazing. Could you give us just a little more background as to how your products came about and how they kind of tie in with your books and everything, and a little more detail on that side?
It's a little bit crazy. So most of my life has been a series of very fortunate accidents. So being a holistic practitioner was an accident. I accidentally took a chiropractic course. I didn't know that that's what it was until I got there and they started teaching. And I was like, "I think they're talking about chiropractic. I don't know if I believe in this." But I finished the course, went home, started using it, and went, "Wow, this really works. This is so cool."
Yeah.
So then I, learned acupuncture and then just kept going down that path of learning everything I could in different modalities. So that was my first fortunate accident. Let's see. Next fortunate accident, I was dared to write a book. I was in this Facebook group for Cavalier King Charles Spaniel owners, and they kept asking a bunch of questions about, what heartworm preventative do you use? What food do you feed? And I was chiming in with my answers, and everybody was like, "Who are you? Your answers are not anything like anybody else's."
Yeah.
And so I outed myself and said, "Well, I'm a holistic veterinarian, blah, blah, blah." And so new people would join and they kept asking questions. And finally, somebody said, "You should write all this down somewhere so that we don't have to keep asking the same questions." And I said, "Well, maybe I'll write a book. Ha, ha, ha." A year later, my first book came out. So after the first book came out, I thought you write a book, I was self-published. I did a hybrid thing. So I thought you write a book, everybody just buys it, right? No, you actually have to promote the book.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Marketing.
how do you do that? Marketing 101. So I signed up for this group that would teach me how to do that. And so I went to my first AHVMA, the Holistic Veterinary Medical Association conference down in Augusta, Georgia, like a year or two later. And I had my son, who does a lot of video work, and my husband with me. And I said, okay, I need stuff for my social media. I was on Facebook. I'm like, I need stuff to promote the book. So we need to get some interviews. So like we're walking around, we've got a big boom and a microphone and a camera, and everybody thinks we're TV. So
Nice.
Everybody wants to be on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And so like people were literally running up to us to be interviewed. So we interviewed a lot of companies and a lot of veterinarians just to get stuff for the Facebook page. And so one of the companies was a New Zealand deer antler velvet company out of New Zealand. We interviewed them. It was one of the worst interviews ever. They had too many people trying to pass the microphone around. They all had foreign accents, couldn't understand anybody. So we never posted it. And this guy from New Zealand starts calling my office. And I kept saying, I'm busy, because I knew he was mad that I never posted the video because he wasn't getting any, social media.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't want to talk to him. I know he's just calling because he's mad. Finally, after a dozen phone calls, my receptionist is like, you have to take this phone call. He's not going to stop calling.
Yeah.
And we're tired of talking to him. So I get on the phone and I said, look, I know you're mad. And he's like, well, that was originally why I was calling. But now I'm calling because I have these products that have deer antler velvet in them. And he was marketing to veterinarians. And he said, I want to market direct to consumer, but I need a face and a name behind the product. And I said, I don't know how to do that. I'm not going to do that. And somehow he bullied me into my husband designing labels for the products. And then he mailed me a bunch of product.
Wow.
With my label on it. And it sat in my back room at the clinic for months and months. My dad got real sick. We had to sell our house, move in with my parents, all this stuff.
Oh.
And so it sat there for months. And then, I'm finally back at work and I go in the back room. I'm like, oh no, this guy's going to send me a bill for this stuff. I have to market this stuff.
Yeah.
So I was working with a senior dog hospice. And so Michelle comes in. She has all these old dogs that are crippled and have all these issues. And so I said, Michelle, take a bunch of this stuff, try it on your dogs, and just tell me if it even works. So I get a phone call from her a couple of weeks later, and she's like, you made all my dogs bad. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, they used to just lay around. Now they're running through the fields. They're jumping on the sofa. Like these are dogs who couldn't move.
Wow.
And I mean, one of them had been like down for weeks, and all of a sudden she's running up and down the driveway. And I went, huh. I'm going to have to market these products. This stuff works.
Yeah.
So that was how, my next fortunate accident for getting into product lines. Unfortunately, those products have done really well for us for about 10 years. But unfortunately now with import regulations, we've been out of the products and can't get them in the country for the past couple of months. So we are now working on formulating. We actually have 8 new products coming out in the next few months. And we're sourcing from US sources so we don't have to deal with this issue. But that was the beginning of having our own product lines. And so that's expanded over the years and it will continue to expand. But it also started our online presence with Naturally Healthy Pets. And then we just started we now work with about 100 small companies that make stellar products. And that is what is on our e-commerce platform, Naturally Healthy Pets.
Incredible.
And that came out of really wanting to find better things, holistic products and treatments for my patients. So we started looking into all of that. And then I was like, well, why should this be restricted to just the patients in my clinic when we could be offering this to pet parents all over the country? We don't sell out of the country. We do have a couple of distributors that sell out of the country, but my accountant doesn't want to deal with taxes from around the world.
Understand.
Don't blame her.
Yeah.
That's a headache. Yeah. Well, very cool. I mean, amazing, that you were just brought into this was, those are really cool stories. So, and it's interesting, I do want to talk after the episode too with some of your products and stuff. Maybe it could be an inclusion in Fresh Patch. We are looking to expand as well. So we'll talk and see if there's anything there. But yeah, amazing
Absolutely.
stories. Amazing.
Yeah, no, that's super awesome. But I want to talk about a specific issue that's encompasses like natural health and all that sort of stuff. So a big part of natural health is reducing stress, exposure to stress and that sort of thing. So how important is an environment, like a pet's environment, to their health?
Hugely important. So we have studies for indoor cats that show that over 80% of indoor cats are highly, highly stressed. And so we wonder why we have all these urinary issues with indoor cats. Well, they're fed incorrectly if they're being fed kibble. So that's step one. But two, they're highly stressed. And so we actually teamed up with a microbiome company that did stool testing. Well, they do stool testing. And what they're looking for is chemicals that align with stress responses in the body. And so we have 9 cats right now. 2 are inside 100%, and 7 live outside 100% in our barn. And so they're doing like real cat stuff.
Hmm.
All of our animals are minimally vaccinated and we don't use any chemicals on them. So it was a really good way to say, okay, we don't have any confounding factors.
Yeah.
They all eat the exact same thing. So we tested the stool samples on the outdoor cats and the indoor cats. The outdoor cats, it was beautiful. It's like, oh, these are happy, healthy cats. The indoor cats, oh my gosh, their stress markers were through the roof. I'm like, they don't do anything. They sit around all day. How can they be that stressed? Well, they're stressed because they're afraid of our dogs. So they're in hiding most of the time. And not that my dogs are bad with them, but the cats are just like, yeah, I'd rather not.
Yeah.
And then I have the 5-year-old grandchild who's, typical 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And so the cats are like, yeah, we'll just hide. Thank you very much. So we know, I mean, we have physical proof on cats. We also know that for a lot of dogs, we have a lot of behavior issues. So why do we have behavior issues? Because these dogs aren't allowed to act like dogs and do normal dog things. So if you have a herding dog or a working breed, they need to work.
Yeah.
They need a job.
Yes,
Like
they do.
I would tell my clients, okay, you live in a 1-bedroom apartment and you've got a herding dog. What does this dog do for entertainment? Well, we go for a walk for a mile twice a day. Well, that's not cutting it. You better get him some ducks, some kids, some cats, something to herd,
Yeah.
because he needs something to do.
Start nipping your ankles if you don't.
Take them out to do agility. Do something
Yeah.
that the dog needs to do. So our dogs spend way too much time inside. They're not getting enough sunlight, so they're not getting those infrared rays that they need. They're not getting enough exercise. They're not getting enough mental stimulation.
Yeah.
Even our senior pets who have mobility issues, or you live somewhere where it's a frozen tundra and you can't get outside and do something with them, then let's do scent work in the house. Even a blind dog, I have a blind dog, even a blind dog can do scent work inside and find things. Like,
Yeah.
My blind dog has a jolly ball. It's one of those hard balls with a handle on it.
Yeah.
It's his favorite thing in the world. And we have a humongous fenced area for our dogs. And we can take that ball and wing it to the far corner of the yard. And that blind dog goes back and forth in a grid pattern until he finds the ball. And then he runs it back to us, drops it, and says, throw it again.
That's so
So, people think that, oh, he's blind, he's deaf, he doesn't move as well.
Yeah.
Like if you saw this dog's x-rays, his hips are atrocious. He's a rescue. His hips are atrocious, and you would
Poor
think
guy.
he would not be very mobile. Nope. He's running all over the place. He's happy as can be. And when he's at his worst and gets in trouble in the house trying to, stick his nose in things and shred things that he shouldn't, it's because it's been miserable and he can't get outside and go play his game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we need to find whatever that is
Yeah.
as mental stimulation for our pets they like interaction. They don't want to lay in the corner for 8 hours a day while you're at work and then lay in the corner for 8 hours at night while you're busy doing everything else that you need to do. It's really critical that we interact, whatever way that will be. And I will say that dogs are actually very social animals. And I know everybody hates dog parks, but if you live in an apartment and you've got a dog that needs exercise and all they get is a couple walks and they don't ever get a chance to be off leash and they don't get a chance to interact with others, that's a very sad existence for them because that's not what they're made to do. There's a big difference between a good dog park and a bad dog park. Find a good one. And make sure that your dog is socially acceptable. Like my dogs are not socially acceptable. I would never take them to a dog park. It would just be bad interactions. But I have 4 dogs, and so they get to interact with other dogs within the household and in our yard and doing their thing. And they have a few friends that they can play with, but they're not the type of dogs that I would take them and throw them out there with a bunch of dogs that they don't know. They would not do well. So know your dog and know where you're going and, you know, what they're going to be exposed to. But it is really critical that our dogs have these interactions and that they have mental stimulation.
Definitely. Yeah, I can relate to that. Both of us here have huge 100-pound dogs, and you know, sometimes socializing them can be a little bit difficult. Luckily we can bring our dogs to work, which is really cool because they can interact with each other that way. And
off leash too.
Off leash, controlled environment.
Yeah.
So that's super awesome.
Working dogs too. We had another Stella who used to be here. She was a Irish Terrier Border Collie mix, so she was working breed all 100%, you know, and we got her in here. They all have their little like construction vests so we can see them when they're in the warehouse and stuff, but she loved coming to work because she was working, you know, so and she, you know, she wasn't like, her owner was like, now she just knocks out on our way home and stuff, and she's very well rested, like, you know, she's gotten all her energy out. So
but I find it really interesting what you said specifically about cats too, because a growing market for us has been cats using the grass. But it's interesting because they don't typically use it as like a potty solution. We find that they more so use it for enrichment. You know, they scratch at it, they roll around in it, and you know, we think it's because they're getting a little taste of that outdoors that they don't have access to. And I just find it really interesting, and it kind of ties into what you were saying.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It is really interesting. And the funny thing is, we have a litter box in our barn. I don't know why, but we have a litter box in our barn. And I mean, these cats have 23 acres where they can, you know, use the whole thing as a litter box. But some of them actually want to use the actual litter box, which kind of blows me away. I'm like, you know, there's like 27 different substrates outside. Go pick one. But I think when the weather's really bad, they're just like, I'm just litter box.
That makes sense.
That's really interesting.
No, and what you were saying too, you know, kind of going off what you were saying, what you were saying too, Dr. Judy, was, you know, the outdoor cat, that test you did, the outdoor cats versus the indoor cats. I'm wondering if, you know, something like Fresh Patch was involved in the indoor cat's life, if that would help skew the numbers a little bit to be,
it,
you know,
might change their microbiome a little bit if they're getting that, you know, being able to get to soil and grass, because it is interesting to watch the outdoor cats. They will nosh on fresh grass. They have certain, I grow a lot of herbs and we have big gardens, and it's really interesting to watch both my dogs and my cats go out there and self-select what they want. I also have indoor herb gardens, and on the bottom shelf are things that are safe for the dogs. And it's really interesting to watch them. Every once in a while, there'll be somebody over there saying, I need a little dill, I need a little lemon balm, whatever. And our pets really will self-select, and cats love, you know, we call it cat grass, but you know, growing you know, wheatgrass and that sort of thing. So for them, that would be, I mean, that's a huge environmental enrichment tool for indoor cats.
We'll have to send you one to try out with your cat.
For my indoor kitties.
I'm sure they'll love it. But that's awesome. That kind of leads us into our next question. So how can things like real grass, consistent routines, and minimizing harsh chemicals help support both physical and mental health, whether that's dog or cat?
So just being able to touch soil is grounding. We tell people get outside and walk in your bare feet. My granddaughter's willing to do that when it's 10 degrees outside. I am not. But and it's interesting because now everybody's into these grounding sheets for your bed. And so my daughter wanted one for Christmas. I'm like, okay, fine. And I gave it to her and I said, what's the point? Like, shouldn't we just go outside and walk around in our bare feet or lay on the ground? And she's like, yeah, but it's cold outside. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But,
Yeah, of course.
And she's very much into the nature thing. So, she is the type who will go out and lay on the ground. But it's really critical for our pets. And before I knew about it, I used to have a dog who would go out and eat soil all the time. And particularly, he would go through different times. And when we got him as a rescue, he came with fleas and ticks and every intestinal parasite and all kinds of infections, and he was anemic. And I think that never really left him. Like his blood work went back to normal and we got rid of everything. But he would have bouts where he literally would go out and just eat all the soil out of my flower pots, which is, the richest soil because, I'm growing these beautiful flowers. And
Yeah.
but what he really needed was the humic and fulvic acid that's in soil. And that's a huge thing that our indoor pets don't get, our city pets don't get. So I think we need to look at what nutrients are missing and why do they all want to eat this fresh new grass that's new growth. That is so critical because the nutrients are concentrated in that new growth. So I think especially for an indoor cat, to be able to, whether you're growing, whether you're using the fresh patch or whether you're growing stuff for your cats to eat, it's pretty critical. And the same with our dogs. I mean, especially for these dogs who live in apartments and live in cities and don't get the chance to go out and be grounded and touch nature. I adopted a dog once. She was 2 years old and she had never been allowed outside. She was a 12-pound dog. She lived with a crazy owner, and the owner had a 1-bedroom apartment, and the dog never stepped foot outside. So she had pee pads and whatever for the dog to use.
Wow.
We named the dog Crazy Shayna because she was pretty crazy. But when she went into foster care, they had a doggy door, and it was spring. And so Shayna went out through the doggy door, and when she got outside, the little helicopters from the maple trees were spinning off of the trees.
Yeah.
Shayna turned herself inside out, chasing these things, leaping through the air, going crazy. And she would not come back inside. She sat at the dog door and barked because she wanted somebody else to come out and play with her. And after 2 weeks of this, the foster mom was like, I can't stand this dog anymore because she just sits out there and barks. And I'm like, well, she's enjoying something she didn't see for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that, it's just so critical for that dog to have that mental stimulus. So she stayed we had her till she was 15, and she stayed that crazy her entire life. Like if a leaf fell from a tree, her favorite game was leaf. We didn't have to throw balls, we threw leaves. It was just her favorite thing in the world to do. But, it is so critical for our animals to get that. It's a huge part of their mental health, but it's also a huge part of their physical health. Their microbiome changes dramatically if they're inside versus outside and being exposed to natural elements.
Interesting. Wow. You're just teaching us so much today.
Yeah.
This is great.
I love this.
Sweet.
This is awesome. So we do have one more question for you, and it is kind of something that we have touched on in the episode, but if you want to get a little bit more into some common misconceptions about nutrition and diet, because as I mentioned, it's a pretty controversial topic these days.
So the biggest misconception is that you should put dry kibble in the bowl twice a day, every day, and never add anything to it. And unfortunately, that has been spouted by veterinarians for years. Oh, you'll unbalance the balanced diet if you add anything to it. Well, great studies have shown that over 60% of the dry kibbles out there that say they're complete and balanced are not. And over 90% of the canned foods that are labeled as complete and balanced are not when they're tested. So I think it's really important for our animals to have fresh food. So we have a farm. Our dogs get fresh organic eggs. Our dogs get fresh organic milk. They get fresh organic yogurt. In the summer, when I have tons of veggies, I'm grinding up veggies and putting my organic veggies in their food as well.
Lucky.
So yeah.
I want everything.
Seriously, can I
It's
be
amazing. Yeah, right.
Our pets eat really, really well, and they're on a raw food diet to begin with. That's their basis. And I have a couple of companies that make complete diets that I use as my base if I don't have time to do my own. So, but it's really critical that we add fresh food to the bowl. So there was a great study done many years ago where they looked at bladder cancer in dogs, and dogs that were given just 20% of their diet as fresh vegetables and fruits, particularly dark leafy greens, the cancer incidence went way, way, way down. So some fresh foods are just superfoods. So I love eggs. I love sardines. I love fresh berries. I like dark leafy greens, mushrooms. Huge fan of mushrooms. So there's so many things that we could easily add to the bowl that we should be making our food using organic, fresh, grass-fed as much as possible. And then whatever's left over, as long as we haven't made it with all kinds of ridiculous sauces and spices, then we should be sharing. So if you're making a meal and let's say you're sauteing some mushrooms in olive oil, or you are steaming some veggies, go ahead and add some to make a little extra, add it to your pet's bowl. When you buy your organic berries, share them. My dogs, we make frozen treats for them. Actually, lately it's just been our fresh milk that I freeze in these molds, so they're getting their fresh milk. But if I run out of treats, if I've been lazy, then frozen blueberries. That's like their favorite thing in the world. And that's such a super powerful treat for our pets. Awesome. So it's pretty easy to add little bits of things to their bowl. And there are so many companies now that make like freeze-dried treats or freeze-dried vegetable mixes that you can just get some of that, add a little bone broth or water to rehydrate it, add that to their food. They love it, and it's super, super powerful for them.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that's really good. I mean, having a senior dog, he has his share of dietary issues, digestion issues, and we've just been experimenting a ton. So I'm definitely going to try to like implement some of this stuff. But I do have a quick follow-up question. Where do you stand on the raw food versus cooked food debate?
So my cats and dogs have been raw fed for 25 years. Ooh, never had an issue. Never had an issue. They eat gently cooked as well, but for the majority, it's raw. Like my cats are on almost all raw. My dogs, just depends what I have in the freezer at the moment, or if I'm making something. So my dogs have very healthy guts. They switch proteins pretty much every meal because it's just whatever I pull out. We probably have about 12 different proteins that we'll rotate through. Wow. We rotate different companies. We rotate homemade. And so here's an example of why that is so critical. A couple of companies that I absolutely love have had some production issues, things out of their control where it's like, oh, we're out of this right now. And so we get complaints from people who say, well, my dog can only eat beef from this company and they're out. And it's like, well, if you had been doing a little bit of rotation and if you had, 2 or 3 companies that your pet could eat their products, you wouldn't have this problem. You'd have a backup plan. So you always have to have a backup plan. And my cats, all 9 of them went on a hunger strike a couple of weeks ago. Oh, we didn't switch companies, didn't switch food, but for some reason, every single one of them said, I'm not eating this. Very weird.
Yep.
So luckily I had a backup plan. And, after they went a couple of days of turning their noses up, I was like, and the chicken, chickens eat everything. So whatever our cats don't eat, the chickens eat. So it's nothing gets wasted. But I was like, okay, well, I can't starve the cats to death. They were drinking their milk, but they weren't getting food. And I said, okay, well, I can't starve you to death. So I had a gently cooked food in the freezer. I thawed that out, warmed it up, and said, try this. And they all said, God bless you, Mom. You had something else in the freezer. So, make sure that you don't get them stuck on that. This is the only thing you can eat, because what if there's a recall? What if there's a production problem?
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've heard diversity is like a big thing as far as like diets.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Beautiful.
Keeps their microbiome a lot happier.
Yeah. Sweet. Amazing. So one last question before we wrap things up, but just a little more on the fresh patch side of things. And I know we've talked about, real grass, consistent routines, harsh chemicals, everything, but of course, fresh patch being a real grass potty product for people in apartments. For pets that live in apartment cities or extreme climates, what should pet parents think about when it comes to potty routines and outdoor exposure? And how can, from your lens, fresh patch be tied into that?
Well, I wish I had had this when I had my house at the shore, because we were upstairs with 9 dogs.
Oh, there we go.
And getting everybody up and down. And we had a beautiful porch upstairs that this would have been like so perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, hauling 9 dogs up and down the stairs a few times a day, just not a lot of, and a lot of them had mobility issues. So we're carrying dogs up and down stairs. And,
not easy.
We're not that young.
Yeah.
So yeah, this would be perfect. And, having something available for your pet if you're at work all day. And, we don't want to encourage them to hold their urine longer than they really need to. Like my daughter's dog, that dog would hold her pee for 3 days if nobody let her outside. Well, that is not good for the urinary tract system.
No, not at all.
It's just not a good thing.
Yeah.
So having that option available, and again, it's a real natural product. So we're getting some grounding every time they put their feet in there. So I think that is important as well, just for overall well-being. And I know that sounds like a little woo-woo out there, but it is really critical that that we all touch real grass and real soil once in a while.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and just giving them that option. And like, this little dog of mine that had to live inside for 2 years, wouldn't it have been nice if her feet were touching grass instead of dirty pee pads all the time? Like that would have been such an improvement in her life in general. And so there are a lot of people, let's say you're a senior person with mobility issues and you can't get your dog out as often, or can't get somebody to come walk your dog as often. This is an amazing product. Krista, who works for us, used it for her puppy. She lives in Colorado. They get, snow over your head. And so this was a really good product for her to be able to help get her dog trained. And when you're training your dog to a grass product, you're training them to recognize grass outside also as, hey, this is where we're supposed to pee. Like my dogs were trained to pee pads, which is wonderful because I can take them to hotels and stuff with me, except now I'm carrying around dirty pee pads and stuff. But there's no pee pads outside. So if I, and like when I was first in practice, we all trained our dogs to pee on newspaper. Well, there's no newspaper outside.
That's still a tree.
We used to have to tell people like, okay, now take the newspaper outside and lay it down. So,
wow.
Makes no sense.
It's so interesting. I hear a lot of people from New York too, like they train their dogs to go on concrete because that's all there is out there, you know? So
but that's where we come in,
I really don't want to be carrying a chunk of concrete around after washing.
I think I'd rather take the real grass that's a little lighter and natural, versus
you think
concrete. Right. And that's good you point out too, taking pee pads to hotels. We actually, for the viewers, for everyone, we are able to ship to hotels, we do market that a lot, that you can just either take the grass with you instead of a stack of dirty pee pads. We have our box and everything that it'll stay cleanliness, will be there and everything, but we can ship straight to hotels. So just for people listening
Awesome.
and stuff,
Mhm.
if you are traveling with your pet, make some arrangements, call our customer service. We can get that real grass wherever you're going.
Yeah.
So,
So cool.
yeah, making it convenient for everybody. And of course, like you were saying, we're all always saying it is natural. They're grounding, teaching them good habits. It's just a great thing. And yeah, sorry you didn't know about us when you had your 9 dogs up on the balcony. That would have been the perfect
I
time.
think this also would have been really good in my motorhome.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. We
You
have.
know,
Mhm.
you're driving cross country
Yep.
and somebody needs to go and you're on a highway and you can't get off. It's like, yeah, but we got this little patch back here in the back. Just go find the patch.
Yep.
Jeez,
So
I coulda
much-
used that
so
for
much better.
personal use a couple times.
Yeah, no, that's a great example too. And I'm sure we do have some people that use it in that capacity, which is, yeah, you're in the middle of the desert and you're trying to get to your destination. Get to the back. We got real grass for you. And
Exactly.
it can be inside too, which is great. So perfect example of how Fresh Patch can be used. Thank you for that. So check it out, everybody that is watching, listening, freshpatch.com if you are interested in any of our amazing products. And also check out Dr. Judy Morgan's website as well. She has amazing products, books. Check out her podcast, get more education. We learned a lot today
Oh, yeah.
and always love learning from our guests and everything. So going to take that into our next endeavors and everything. But for all the viewers as well, hit that subscribe button, follow at Fresh Patch on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube, all social media channels at Fresh Patch. Follow Dr. Judy, check out her website, and thank you again, Dr. Judy. This has been great, and
Yes.
like I said, educating us, and lovely to have you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah. All right, guys, and we will see you on the next episode of the Fresh Patch Podcast, where good pets get it. See you next time. Thanks for listening to the Fresh Patch Podcast, where good pets get it. We hope you enjoyed the show. Give us a like or a follow and shop all real grass supplies at freshpatch.com.